Saskatchewan is home to 27 of Canada's 34 critical minerals. Saskatchewan holds the world's largest deposits of potash and some of the highest grade uranium anywhere on the planet. From fertilizer that feeds global agriculture to uranium that fuels clean nuclear power, Saskatchewan plays an outsized role in Canada's clean growth economy, and much of that activity happens in rural parts of the province. But as the country moves towards a lower carbon future, questions are being raised about how federal policies will affect provinces like Saskatchewan. Under the current federal clean electricity regulations, electricity costs in Saskatchewan are projected to double by 2035. For energy-intensive sectors, including the province's $5.5 billion fertilizer industry, as well as mining and mineral processing, affordability and reliability aren't just concerns. They're essential to staying competitive in this global market. Now, the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities is calling on Ottawa to recognize the realities facing rural industries and to ensure that the transition to cleaner energy doesn't come at the expense of the economic and sustainability of the province of Saskatchewan. SARM is advocating for a balanced, innovative-driven approach, one that supports growth, strengthens infrastructure, and keeps rural Saskatchewan at the forefront of responsible resource development. Now, joining us today to discuss this and a little bit more is Bill Huber, president of the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities, or SARM. Now, we will be talking about critical minerals, energy policy, rural competitiveness, and what Saskatchewan needs from the federal government to continue driving both provincial and national prosperity. This is Municipal Affairs.
You stepped up to serve your community. Now take your leadership to the next level. Introducing GEMS, Governance Essentials for the Municipal Sector, a practical, Saskatchewan-based training program designed for council members and those who support them. Whether newly elected or a seasoned leader, GEMS helps sharpen the skills that matter most: decision-making, accountability, financial stewardship, infrastructure oversight, and navigating the complex realities of municipal governance. This isn't your typical classroom. GEMS is flexible, online, and built for busy people. You don't need a university degree, just a commitment to good governance. For some, it's been years since taking a course. That's okay. GEMS is designed to build confidence and knowledge. There is a short assessment, but it's there to reinforce your learning, not to trip you up. If cost is a concern, talk to your administrator, as there may be grants available to offset some of the costs. Because when local leaders grow, entire communities benefit. GEMS, because good governance isn't just important, it's essential.
President Huber, thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about a call that SARM is making around the federal government to start supporting Saskatchewan's rural economy and potentially looking at where Saskatchewan's rural economy plays in the big federal picture that the federal government is laying out. SARM is urging the federal government to recognize Saskatchewan's role in Canada's clean growth economy. What do you feel Ottawa is currently overlooking around rural Saskatchewan's economy?
Well, I think we got to realize that Saskatchewan is urging the federal government to recognize what we have here in this province and the value we have. We have 27 of 34 critical minerals located right here in this province. We've got the largest deposits of potash of anywhere in the world. We've got the third of the global supply of potash right here in Saskatchewan. We've just had another discovery of aluminum. We've got oil and gas, LNG. The list goes on and on of the natural and renewable resources that we have. And we want to make sure that the federal government recognizes what we have here and gives us some leniency into being part of those decisions so that we can cut and use our resources to keep energy costs down, especially electricity. You know, in this province, we have a $5.5 billion fertilizer industry. And that's huge, $5.5 billion for a province with 1.25 million people. You know, and we've got a manufacturing industry in this province, some of the largest ones in some of the field equipment that we need for seeding and harvesting. Or Go Industries at St. Brew. We've got Vaterstad at Langbank, and we've got Degelman Industries located right here in Regina. The list goes on, and the hundreds and hundreds of people that they employ, and the billions of dollars worth of equipment that they produce, not only for our farmers and ranchers, but for people across the border and around the world. So we got to make sure that their things that they do and produce are done as cheap as possible for them, and electricity is a big part of that, and that we have them in business for many, many years to support our needs here.
You talked about the 27 of 34 critical minerals that are in Saskatchewan. And over the last, I would say, year and a bit, there has been a more bigger push for the Canada First approach to clean energy resource development, but also food security. How does rural Saskatchewan, with the abundance of critical minerals that you do have, position itself as a solution to that Canada First approach when we are looking at we need to start building internally rather than shipping our stuff externally to other countries? Do you think Saskatchewan has a role in playing that?
Well, I think we do. Certainly, we do have a role. And, you know, we got to realize and have government realize that our federal government realize that in other worldly countries that some of these things are very valuable for the production of food. You know, we can't grow a crop in this day and age without it. And you tie it all together. We're talking about energy now and food sustainability, but you know, we can go back to the Indian Head Research Farm and some of the research that's done there and how important that is. But we've got it all here, and it's a lot of that stuff is exported too. It's a driver for the economy.
One of the biggest concerns that SARM is raising around this call is around the clean electricity regulations. Now, under this, the electricity rates in Saskatchewan are projected to double in the next, I would say 10 years, but we're not in 2025 anymore. So next 9 years by 2035. What would that mean for rural communities, rural industries on the ground if those prices doubled in the next 10 years?
Well, it wouldn't be good. I mean, our our rates up for energy right now are high enough. In fact, they're too high. So using that a rate of double the cost in 8 to 10 years would be devastating. You know, not only for our producers, but for the manufacturing industry and transportation, and the list goes on and on. You know, we've got huge deposits of uranium here. And I know there's work being done on SMRs, you know, small nuclear reactors, but we don't build them overnight and we don't build them cheap. You know, they're 10 years away, possibly, maybe 8 if we're real lucky. And they're millions and millions of dollars. But I think we have to move forward on things like that, where we have clean energy, you know, and it's a source of uranium right here in Saskatchewan, so it's a great place to do it, and I think things like that'll help. But I think if the federal government just sort of gets out of the way and lets the province do a lot of this on our own, you know, we'll be in a better place, and we should maybe be able to maintain energy rates at a lot less rate than they're predicted to possibly go.
Mineral and mining processing are cornerstones in many rural municipalities across Saskatchewan. The risks of doubling electricity rates, the risks of the clean electricity regulations could pose some challenges and potential risks for rural communities. What is SARM looking at when looking at that potential doubling of doubling of electricity rates? And do you see SARM being able to help rural municipalities sort of adapt if the changes aren't overturned?
Well, yes, we certainly will try and help them adapt, but how we can do that is unknown at this time. Like But as the days go on and the months and years, you know, we're going to be close contact with our officials and see what progress is being made and what direction they're taking, and try and have things work in the right direction where it's beneficial for our province and our members in rural communities.
What would be a good first step for the federal government around this issue for the for SARM? Would it be just as you said just a few seconds ago, getting out of the way and letting the province do what they need to do to make Saskatchewan a superpower in critical minerals, or is there a first step that you would love to see Mark Carney or even the energy minister take tomorrow?
Well, I think the first thing Mark Carney and the energy minister need to do is make sure that they're in close consultation with our provincial officials. That's number one. But, you know, personally, I think I'd like to see them totally back off on a lot of this. I think there's too much overreach in it. And I think, but the first step would be to make sure there's good, clear consultation with our provincial leaders, and to make sure that they're on side. Don't push back. If our Ministry of Energy and Resources and our Premier aren't in agreement with it and it's not beneficial to our province, you know, back off and let us do it and you know, take the wealth. You know, we had an energy you know, plan number of years ago that was devastating to Western Canada and oil and gas, and we don't need anything like this forced on us with clean energy programs in Western Canada. You know, our leaders in this province and our producers, we've been leaders in direct seeding and soil conservation and soil, you know, nitrogen sequestration, things like that. We didn't just dream this up 10 years ago. We've been at it for 30 or 40 years. And it's been done by people that worked at the research station in places like Indian Head, you know, and where seeding tools were developed and direct seeding was implemented. And so
Are
that's...
you is what is the message as SARM is the voice of rural Saskatchewan? What is the message you are hearing from rural communities, from the Reeves, from the councillors about the federal energy transition, or are you hearing anything about this?
Well, no, we're not hearing a lot, but what we do hear is certainly that they're not in favor, but they're not supportive of it. You know, there's you know, we go back a number of years with the carbon tax and thank God that is you know, we've had a win there that they backed off on that. But you know, if the our Prime Minister Trudeau would have had his way and kept on as the leader, you know, where would we be with that carbon tax? And Stephen Cabot was our Minister of Environment. It would have been devastating. You know, we wouldn't have been able to compete on a world stage. You know, and that's one of the things. You know, we have countries around the globe that continually to produce more and more every year, and the more commodities there are for food and food sustainability, the more competitiveness there is. And you know, our wheat prices and canola and pulse crops are way undervalued right now, and producers are struggling with input costs that are extremely high and commodity prices that are as low as they've been for 30 or 40 years.
So looking ahead for my final question before I let you go, President Huber, looking to the next 10, 15 years, what does a successful, sustainable rural Saskatchewan economy look like to yourself and to SARM?
Well, to make our economy in this great province, you know, profitable and sustainable for our producers and residents, we need to have efficiencies, and we need to have markets that are secure and guaranteed. We have to treat our customers with respect, make sure they get our product to their countries and their places of need on time, that there's no delays and no disruptions. So we need more money spent on infrastructure. We need to continue spending money on research, and we need to make sure that our producers are profitable, that they can stay in business. And that's, you know, any company that invests in an industry, whether it's mining or manufacturing or grain handling, they have to have a certain percent of return. And right now, agriculture producers' percent of return on their total investment is pretty slim. And a real astute businessman would not continue on. He'd pack his tent up and go home.
Well, hopefully you are optimistic as I am about the future of Saskatchewan's rural economy and Saskatchewan in general, because I think it's probably one of the best provinces in the Confederation called Canada, but that is just my own personal opinion. President Huber, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Always great to talk to you.
Thanks for tuning in for another edition of Municipal Affairs, the show where we take a closer look at the people, the policies, and yes, the practical decisions shaping local governments across Canada. Now, each episode is designed to dig beneath the headlines and bring forward real conversations about the challenges and, yes, even opportunities facing municipalities of all sizes in all provinces and all territories. Now, if today's discussion was useful or even thought-provoking, we encourage you to subscribe to the show, leave a review, and share this episode with your colleagues, your family, your friends, and any municipally minded professional who cares about strong local governance. Also, visit crossbordernetwork.ca to learn about how you can join a future episode of Municipal Affairs and contribute to the national conversation on municipal issues. So until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we will be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs shortly. Till then, everyone.